King, queen. It was a bluff. Ah!
Be nice if you bluffed.
Nice if I bluffed.
Show the bluff.
Oh, there's some hand. Wow.
Show the bluff.
Shit.
Hi guys, PokerNOW here. Welcome back to another thrilling episode of Poker Hands. Before jumping straight into action, I would like to ask you guys to hit that like button and to subscribe too, as your support is very important to us. In this video, we'll show you Daniel Negreanu bluffing like it's nothing. At number 5, we see Daniel taking an aggressive line against Kim Hultman, the high-stakes poker newbie. Daniel raises from the hijack with 2 diamonds and everybody folds but Hultman, who defends in the button, and Doyle Brunson, who defends in the big blind. By the way, you got to love this lineup. Daniel, Ivy, Dwan, Patrick, Doyle, just like the glory days. Flop comes 6, 9, 10, all spades. Doyle has got a pair of 9s and he could make a straight flush with the 7 of spades. Pretty decent flop for him. He decides to check. Daniel c-bets to 1500 in a 6,400 pot with his pair of 6s against 2 players. Kim's got an open-ended straight draw with the jack of spades. He could have raised, but he decides to call. Doyle also pays. The turn is an ace of spades. Doyle checks his flush and Daniel decides to bet again. Half pot this time. Even though this looks very strong, betting into 2 people, he is the only player who does not have a spade. Hultman has the 3rd best possible flush and decides to just call, understanding that queen and king of spades would beat him. Doyle lets his 8 of spades go. The river is a 6, giving Daniel trips. However, he is aware it is not the best hand here. I believe Daniel knows exactly where Hultman is at, and he decides to fire for the 3rd time, betting 36,000, an overpot bet representing king of spades. Very few players can accurately put you on a hand and has the sack to follow through like Negreanu.
Be nice if you bluffed.
Nice if I bluffed.
Number 4, there's nothing more exciting in poker than the satisfaction of pulling off a huge bluff, especially at the final table of a super high roller tournament. Badzikowski raises to 15,000 in the small blind, but Daniel says, "Hey, that's not gonna work here," and raises to 120,000. Nikita decides to take a flop and pays with his Jack-9 offsuited. Flop is 9-7-2, top pair for Nikita, who checks, and Negreanu checks back. The turn is 3 of clubs. It brings no help to Negreanu. Badzikowski bets 70% pot. Daniel calls with ace high. The river is an 8 of spades. Badzikowski decides to go for some value and bets 240k. Here Daniel has 2 options. He can make a very speculative call, or he could go with the other option and simply fold. However, he has something different in mind and decides to raise to 750k. Oh boy! Daniel uses his reputation very well. He knows he doesn't get out of line often and people will give him credit for big river raises like this. Although the line doesn't make much sense, it's just hard to call off with 1 pair, and he gets Nikita to follow the best hand. Number 3. At number 3, we have Daniel doing what he does best, reading his opponent's hand all the way into folding. In this hand, we see Daniel 4-betting Garrett to 270,000, everybody folds, and Garrett in the cutoff decides to pay. Flop brings no help to Daniel, as there are no diamonds, but it brings a 9 for Garrett, who checks. Daniel c-bets to 20 grand and Garrett calls. 7 of the diamonds in a turn. Daniel fires again for 50,000 after Garrett's check. Daniel is probably putting Garrett on his exact hand, a 9 or a flush draw, and he is trying to apply as much pressure as possible with this bet. Garrett pondering, and he's gonna call. Good call. Nothing for Daniel on the river. Garrett checks for the 3rd time. Would Daniel fire that 3rd bullet? Would Garrett make the call? Here it comes. Daniel bets 75% pot, $175,000. Wow, this is a great play, and it would be an even better call if Garrett makes it. Negreanu showed a ton of heart here and read the situation perfectly. Garrett figures Daniel has ace-king, kings, aces, or a bluff. But Daniel really played this like he had one of the aforementioned monsters. But if Garrett had called, it would have gone down as one of the greatest calls in the history of HSP. Funny how Tom knew it was just a bluff the whole time.
Show the bluff.
Oh, there's some hand. Wow.
Show the bluff.
Shit.
Number 2. At number 2 is the legend Justin Bonomo against Daniel Negreanu. Daniel is human and he gets bluffed too. Let's watch it. Daniel with Jack 8 of spades in the small raises to 75,000 and Bonomo calls. The flop gives Daniel a flush draw, plus a backdoor straight door, plus he has 2 overcards. He must love this flop. Daniel c-bets for 45k. Justin has raised to $175,000. Daniel calls. Turn is 7 of clubs, pairing the board. It is a scary card, and both players decide to check. On the river, Daniel pairs his jack, giving him the best hand. He goes for value and bets 180,000 in a 515,000 pot. Kind of a small bet from Daniel, but he doesn't want to scare off worst hands, and he also is somehow concerned about possible full houses or flushes. Justin Bonomo is going for a raise. He raises to 1 million. Come on!
I fold.
Negreanu lets it go. What did Bonomo have? King, queen. It was a bluff. Ah!
Number 1. Bluffing is a huge part of poker. In fact, it's an essential weapon in every player's arsenal. In the next hand, we will see Daniel transforming the skill of bluffing into an art form. 3 players going to a flop 9-5-4 with 2 spades. Shlomi continues with a 1-5-2-5 bet. Bonyadi folds his 6s. Daniel, who flopped top pair, decides to call. Flop brings no threat to Shlomi's king and bets around half pot. Daniel is Mr. Sticky and calls again with only 11% equity against the kings. The river card is 8 of clubs, and it doesn't really change much. Shlomi fires again. 1/3 pot this time. He gives Negreanu a fair price to make this call. Would Daniel get away from this? Instead, he raises. Oh my god.
I'm thinking aces or kings.
You think right. And Shlomi's now thinking, if you've read me for aces or kings, surely you can beat aces or kings. I have to fold.